Now that Big Brother 23 has its first female HOH with Sarah Beth, BB Twitter wants girl power over black power now. You see, sexism trumps racism every time in the realm of woke, internet activism, and in all so-called black power movements, which is what this season is centered around. But first, let's begin with Sarah Beth being the HOH. As you can see here, when she won, she celebrated in the storage room with Kylan, and just look at how excited they were. But I can tell you who wasn't excited. BB woke Twitter and the players in the house, specifically the Cookout female members. First, let me begin with BB Twitter's reaction. So after Sarah Beth won, you had some racialist trolling directed towards people on BB Twitter who like Sarah Beth. For example, here is an example of some racialist trolling. Now you have @Gavin Koala celebrating SB's win and the possibility of Tiffany being targeted. And then you have @HeyCorday, who decided to respond by calling the Twitter user's celebration anti-black. And then Gavin responds, nope, just anti-Tiffany. And of course, @HeyCorday replies with some more racialist trolling by saying, so anti-black? Got it. And then the person responds defending themselves. Nope, has nothing to do with her race. And then the racialist troll comes right back with, did you just call me a nigger? Now, I don't know if Twitter user @Corday is black or posing online as black, because that happens a lot. But this is the kind of shit that makes the most tolerant person hate certain people. And then others have to suffer the consequences in real life for stupid ass trolling that occurs online. And as you can see, it continues for a couple of more tweets where the one Twitter user, aka a Tiffany fan, blatantly invents more racist remarks being made against them. And the other Twitter user, let's say a Christian Birkenberger type, decided to retreat and walk away with a reason to hate people like @HeyCorday. And that's essentially what this entire season has been like. A bunch of woke racist trolls cheering on the woke racist players in the woke racist alliance inside the house. And this is what CBS invited and promoted for this season. You know, with their 50% POC casting. And speaking of the promotion for this season, Davonne, the spiritual grandmother founder of the Cookout Alliance, due to her speech last season apparently, where, well, here she is being a typical liberal pro-black feminist, advocating for the female members of the Cookout to win over the male members who have been doing all of the work, with Xavier and Kylan winning about 3 HOHs between them, and Derek F. volunteering for the block so the female members don't lose their shit. But Davonne wanting the females to win over the males is pretty much on brand for her type. You know, the loudmouth pro-black feminist female activist online who also likes to call black men Uncle Toms and question other black males' blackness like she did with David and Kevin last season. A woke racist bitch who is the enemy of black males, more so than any Klansman or alt-right racist could ever be. Because with bitches like her, she would be rewarded and given a position of power to further push an institutional assault on black males and the black family. And I'll touch on that more a bit later in this video. But right now, I need to touch on the girls in the house and their reaction, which is mainly Ozza and Tiffany bitching and complaining and blaming Kylan for everything because their weak asses couldn't win another HOH. You know, Sarah Beth smoked them in the balance beam HOH. And you basically had these two hoes. You basically had them saying, you know, Kylan should have let Tiffany win, and Sarah Beth wouldn't be in the house right now, let alone be HOH. But like always, thanks to the male Cookout members, specifically in this instance Kylan, it appears that Kylan has Sarah Beth wrapped around his little finger, and she's making a dumbass move against her own interests by targeting Claire or Derek X, since she's apparently still blind to the anti-white racist alliance in the house who want her out of the house very badly because, you know, among other things, she white and her white ass can't mess up their all black power final six that they have planned. And here I thought Sarah Beth, you know, wasn't a dumbass, and that she could see what even dumbass Christian Birkenberger could see while he was in the house, but pretends he didn't see now online. But apparently she's even dumber than him in the house. And I wonder how Sarah Beth will feel to know that Kylan is using her and ready to sacrifice her because she's white. Because they need that all Black Power Alliance. I'm sure Sarah Beth and her family and girlfriend will be cool with all of that, you know, after this game is over, I'm sure, right? But if this dumb move gets made and Claire and Derek X end up on the block next to each other, or one of them ends up next to Xavier and another white person goes home, then this will be a Kylan move, not a Hannah, Isa, or Tiffany move. Because yes, Derek X is white, by the way, because, you know, Asians are white. They were saying that before Stop Asian Hate became a thing. But anyway, that's a side note. Despite all of the men doing all of the work, Davonne and her type don't care about that. At the end of the day, they wave that white liberal feminist flag. That's their real flag. The pro-black flag being waved is for these dumb black dudes out here who still fall for it. And let me just give you an example of what I'm talking about. You see here, this is what Davonne is doing it for. She's trying to be like these women. You know, the female founder of Me Too, the black liberal female. And Me Too is basically a feminist false accusation scam to get money and positions in various industries. And surprise, surprise, CBS rewarded this woman with $1 million deal. Davonne also aspires to be like the 3 co-founders of BLM, who all have landed multi-million-dollar entertainment deals because this is who they reward and give nice chunky crumbs to, so they can satisfy females like this, specifically females like Davonne, who will sell out any and everything to get deals like this, which includes playing the woke card. And side note, the women on the left and right of the BLM trio are both with white women. And that's just further evidence of the path Davonne wants to go down and Davonne 2.0 wants to go down, aka Tiffany. And this is why, you know, people like Davonne and Tiffany champion, you know, this female shit over their so-called race because it's a part of their brand. And their brand is represented throughout these movements like Me Too and BLM. And all throughout history, men have been calling this out. From Booker T. Washington back in 1911, speaking on how there's a certain class of race problem solvers who don't want the patient to get well because as long as the disease holds out, they have not only an easy means of making a living, but also an easy medium through which to make themselves prominent before the public. And you can't tell me that doesn't perfectly describe a chick like Davonne and a chick like Tiffany. Race hustlers who want attention so they can get money and get a little positioning in their lives. And Booker T called this type of person out back in 1911. And you had Malcolm X in the 50s and 60s who talked about the worst person in the Western Hemisphere. In the entire Western Hemisphere, the worst person, the most dangerous person was a white person calling themselves a liberal. And you're talking about men in the early to mid 20th century who was going through real shit. And that's the type of people that they called out. And Malcolm X specifically called out how they would use entertainers like Dick Gregory and other celebrities at the time. And it's the same thing that's happening now. Now, some will say, what the fuck does this have to do with Big Brother? Well, I'm highlighting all this shit to pretty much tell you where people like Davonne, Tiffany, and Azza come from in the game of life and in the game of Big Brother. And this is who they cast. They cast them to push those agendas. You know, it's a much bigger game outside the house as it is inside the house. And inside of the house is just a microcosm represent what goes on in society. You know, you have women like this, you know, Tiffany, Davonne, Azza, who get enabled by their white liberal zaddies and mammies because they aren't a threat. They aren't a threat. Because the people who are hosting this racist game this season are the owners of CBS, which is a family, the Redstone family. You know, they're white liberal enablers. And with their patriarch who has passed away, Sherry Redstone, a female, along with their company, their family company, National Amusements, that is who owns this game. So all of the pro-woke bullshit is happening through a white liberal family. Man, you can't make this shit up. It's right there. Proof is in the pudding. So once again, this race play that's happening with this season, it is only being allowed. It's being allowed. And people like Davonne and Tiffany and Azza, who have this hateful dismissal of the men in the house, along with their entitlement issues, it's all enabled by people like the Redstone family and corporations like The Root, a blackface company. You know, a blackface company that likes to say straight black men are the white people of black people. And I call it a blackface company because its current CEO is a white dude. And the creator and founder of The Root was a white man by the name of Don Graham, who used Henry Gates Jr. as his blackface frontman to make fools believe that there was a black man who created this so-called black company. Newsflash, Don owns a conglomerate and Henry is just an academic. So clearly Don Graham is the true creator of The Root, who puts out toxic messages like straight black men are the white people of black people, and mentioning white people being an insult. And that's the type of message that Davonne and the Tiffany's of the world promote in and outside of the house. And here's another side note for you. That Henry Gates guy, he got unfairly arrested by a cop during Barack Obama's presidency. You know, he got arrested for breaking into his own home. And then months later, Henry had beer and peanuts with his arresting officer who was in the wrong, and Obama hosted it. He hosted a beer summit with good old Joe right by his side as they, laughed and dapped it up with no apologies coming from the officer, by the way. But this is the fucking woke. Every time, in and outside of the Big Brother house, which is why I cannot and will not support this woke racist bullshit. Because it's all a goddamn scam. Cookout Alliance is just representative of all of these other faux activist scams that has existed throughout history and that various people throughout history have called out. This woke racism bullshit is some insidious bullshit that's multi-layered. But it's easy to see if you care. If you're not fucking lazy and choose to remain an ignorant bigot, just pay attention to it instead of dismissing it and calling people out, because if you want to do that, then you're part of the problem. But the main ones who are always calling this out are black males. Black males like Darian Seals, who called out BLM in 2016, and already went over Booker T. Washington, Malcolm, who called shit out in the early 20th century. But once again, fuck this racist ass season, racist ass players, coward, bigoted podcasters, alumni, and fans who all want to justify this bullshit, trying to reference past season racism that they've either imagined or strongly exaggerated, especially when comparing it to this season, the Black Klansman season. But anyway, looking forward to see who gets picked for veto.